She texted, "I'm pregnant, but I'm telling my rich ex it's his. We deserve his child support." I replied, "A clever plan." Then I called her ex, congratulated him, and emailed him the paternity test results and the voicemail where she admitted her plan. The call I got from his lawyer. "So this happened about 6 months ago, but the legal dust is finally settling, which means I can post about it. This is a throwaway for obvious reasons, and some details have been changed to protect the guilty, me, and the innocent, everyone except my ex. I-33M was dating Becca, 29F, for about 9 months. We met through a mutual friend at a rock climbing gym. I was the guy who kept falling off the beginner wall, and she was the instructor who found it adorably pathetic," her words. Our relationship moved quickly. Maybe too quickly, looking back. We were living together after 3 months, talking about long-term plans by month 6. I'm a paralegal at a law firm specializing in family law, which will be relevant later. I make decent money, but I'm not wealthy by any stretch. Becca worked as a fitness instructor at several high-end gyms and made about the same as me. We split rent on our apartment in Seattle, Washington, shared expenses, and generally had what I thought was a healthy, equal partnership. One major red flag I ignored was how often Becca talked about her ex, Devin. Devin is some tech executive who apparently makes obscene money, like multiple vacation homes and a private jet money. They dated for 2 years before breaking up about a year before I met her. According to Becca, Devin dumped her because he couldn't handle a strong woman with her own ambitions. I never met the guy, but based on her stories, I pictured a soulless corporate Chad who expected women to be decorative accessories. The problem was, Becca never stopped following Devin on social media. She'd constantly make little comments about his posts, his new car, his trips to Bali or Monaco, the charity galas he attended with whatever vapid model was currently on his arm. She played it off as mockery, but there was always something wistful about it. I should have recognized that for the blinking red warning sign it was, but hey, we all have our blind spots. About 8 months into our relationship, Becca started acting strange. Moody, secretive with her phone, taking calls in another room. Classic cheating behavior, right? I'm ashamed to say I snooped. One night while she was in the shower, I checked her phone. I know, not my proudest moment. I'd noticed she used the same password for everything. Her birth year followed by her initials, so accessing her phone wasn't difficult. There weren't any suspicious texts from other guys, but I did find something unexpected. A calendar app with ovulation tracking, and a note that read, 12 days late. While I had her phone unlocked, I also noticed she had Devin's number saved under Do Not Answer, Devin. I quickly wrote it down, thinking it might be useful information, then made sure to close all apps and return her phone exactly as I'd found it. When she got out of the shower, I confessed to snooping, which led to a massive fight, but then asked if she was pregnant. The fight immediately stopped, and she burst into tears. Yes, she was pregnant. She'd taken 3 tests, all positive. She'd been trying to figure out how to tell me. I was stunned. We'd always used protection, but I know nothing's 100% effective. After the shock wore off, I actually felt excited, scared, but excited. I told her we'd figure it out together, that I was in this with her. She seemed relieved, and we spent the night talking about how this changed our plans, what we'd need to do, etc. The next day, I came home from work early, planning to surprise her with takeout from her favorite Thai place and maybe some non-alcoholic champagne to celebrate. As I walked in, I heard her on the phone in our bedroom. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but our apartment was small and she was speaking loudly. The timing works perfectly. He'll never know. No, I haven't told him yet. I know Devin's loaded, and this is our chance to be set for life. Yes, child support in Washington is based on income, and his is massive. Who cares if it's not his? The baby deserves that kind of life, and so do I after the way he dumped me. I stood there, frozen, takeout bags getting heavy in my hands, as my girlfriend cheerfully detailed her plan to pass our baby off as her wealthy exes, all to secure hefty child support payments. She laughed about how Devin would be such a sucker, and how she'd finally get what she deserved from him. I quietly set the food down, went back outside, and sat in my car for an hour, trying to process what I'd heard. This woman was planning to defraud her ex, lie to me, and use our child as a meal ticket. I was furious, heartbroken, and frankly, disgusted. When I finally went back inside, Becca was sitting on the couch scrolling through her phone. She looked up with a smile that now seemed sinister rather than sweet. "Hey, I was wondering where you were. Did you bring dinner?" she asked, noticing the takeout bags. "I did," I replied, keeping my voice steady. "But first, I need to ask you something important. Who's the father of your baby?" Her smile faltered for just a second before returning. "What do you mean? You are, obviously. That's interesting, because I just overheard you on the phone explaining how you're going to tell Devin it's his baby so you can collect child support." Her face went through a remarkable series of expressions: shock, fear, anger, and finally, a calculating calm. "You were spying on me? Wow, that's toxic behavior, Jake." She was suddenly on the offensive. "And you clearly misunderstood what I was saying. I was talking to my sister about a show we're watching. It's a plotline about a woman who—" "Stop," I interrupted. "Please don't insult my intelligence on top of everything else. I heard you very clearly." She stared at me for a moment, then her shoulders sagged. "Fine. Yes, I was thinking about telling Devin it's his. So what? That man owes me after how he treated me, and his child support would give this baby everything I never had growing up. Everything you can't provide. It's not like he'd miss the money. Except it's not his child to support. It's fraud, Becca." She rolled her eyes. "It's justice. And honestly, who cares? Rich people screw over the little guy all the time. This is just evening the score." "I care. That's my child you're talking about." "Our child," she corrected. "And don't you want what's best for our baby? Devin could pay for private schools, college, everything. You really want to deprive your kid of that out of some misplaced moral superiority?" I looked at her, really looked at her, and realized I didn't know this woman at all. "I need some time to think," I said finally. "I'm going to stay with my brother tonight." As I packed an overnight bag, Becca's tone changed from defensive to pleading. "Jake, please, I was just exploring options. I wouldn't really do it. Come on, we need to stick together right now." I hesitated, and she must have sensed her opportunity. She took my hand and placed it on her still flat stomach. "This is our baby, our future. Don't throw that away." I'm not proud of what I did next, but in my defense, I was emotionally overwhelmed and not thinking clearly. I looked into her eyes and said, "You're right, I overreacted. It's just a lot to process." She smiled with relief. "I understand. Take the night if you need it, but promise me we'll talk tomorrow with clear heads." "Absolutely. And Becca, I think you're right about Devin. He does owe you. It's a clever plan." Her eyes lit up. "Really? You think so?" I nodded. "We'll discuss details tomorrow." Though I maintained a strategic approach in that moment, I spent that night on my brother's couch alternating between rage and heartbreak. I'd wanted a family, a partner, a life with Becca. Finding out who she really was didn't erase those feelings overnight. But by morning, I reminded myself that my child deserved a father who could handle this situation with integrity. First thing the next day, I called my boss, a family law attorney with 30 years of experience, explaining the situation and asking for advice. She immediately consulted with our firm's ethics committee about the potential conflict of interest, since I would be the client rather than representing myself, and because a different partner would handle my case, they determined it was permissible under state bar rules. Still, my boss documented everything meticulously to avoid any appearance of impropriety. Following my boss's legal advice, I began gathering evidence. I would need more than just an overheard conversation. Then, using the number I'd written down from Becca's phone, I called Devin. When he answered, I introduced myself and said I had some news he might want to hear. He was understandably suspicious, but agreed to meet me for coffee the next day. Devin turned out to be nothing like Becca had described. Yes, he was obviously wealthy. The watch on his wrist probably cost more than my car, but he wasn't some sneering Chad. He was soft-spoken, polite, and seemed genuinely confused about why his ex's new boyfriend wanted to meet. I got straight to the point. "Becca's pregnant." His eyebrows shot up. "Congratulations. I'm not sure why you're telling me this." "Because she's planning to tell you it's yours to get child support." He stared at me, coffee cup frozen halfway to his lips. That's impossible. We haven't been together in almost 2 years." She's claiming it was a one-night hookup from about 8 weeks ago. His face darkened. That's absolutely false. I haven't seen or spoken to Becca since we broke up. I've been dating my current girlfriend for over a year, and I would never cheat on her. Why should I believe you? He asked, eyeing me carefully. You could be setting me up. I showed him screenshots of Becca's ovulation tracking app that I'd taken during my snooping session. I believe you, I assured him. That's why I'm here. The baby is mine, and Becca admitted her plan to me. She doesn't know I'm meeting you. He set down his cup with a shaky hand. I appreciate you telling me this, truly, but why? Aren't you and Becca? Not anymore, I said firmly. I can't be with someone who would do something like this. He nodded slowly. I'm sorry. This must be difficult for you, but what do you want from me? Nothing. I just thought you deserved a warning. And, I hesitated, I could use some advice about how to handle paternity and custody going forward. Devin, as it turns out, had gone through something similar with a previous girlfriend, though not Becca. He introduced me to his lawyer, a terrifying woman named Marion who specialized in paternity fraud cases. She advised me to gather evidence of Becca's plan before confronting her again. Following Marion's advice, I went home and acted as if everything was normal. I told Becca I'd thought about it and agreed her plan made sense. She was thrilled, immediately launching into details about how they'd approach Devin, what they'd ask for, etc. But there's one problem, I said. What if he demands a paternity test? She waved this concern away. He won't. Devin hates confrontation and awkwardness. He'll pay just to avoid the drama. Still, I pressed, shouldn't we have a backup plan? Just in case? She thought for a moment. I suppose we could get a test now with you to confirm the baby's yours. That way, if he somehow grows a spine and demands a test later, I'll already know if we need to get creative with the results. I acted reluctant, but eventually agreed. At 9 weeks pregnant, we went for a non-invasive prenatal paternity test, NIP. The testing facility explained it was the earliest they could reliably perform the test. The procedure was exactly as expected, a blood draw for Becca and a cheek swab for me. We paid $995 out of pocket. I insisted on using my personal credit card rather than my HSA, explaining to Becca that it was to avoid a paper trail, though the real reason was that I knew paternity tests weren't qualified medical expenses for HSA use. Following my boss's advice, I made sure to explicitly ask Becca at the start of each conversation. I'd like to record our discussion about the Devin plan so we can keep our stories straight. Is that okay? She always said yes, giving me the clear consent required under Washington's two-party recording law. I used a high-quality recording app recommended by my law firm for client interviews to ensure there would be no issues with audio clarity or questions about authenticity. When the test results came back after 7 business days confirming I was the father, no surprise there, I forwarded a copy to Devin and Marion. Then I waited, playing the supportive boyfriend, while Becca crafted her approach to Devin. She decided to text him first, keeping it casual. Hey stranger, I know it's been a while, but I need to talk to you about something important. Coffee sometime this week? To her delight, he responded quickly. Sure. How about tomorrow at 2 p.m.? The usual place? She was practically giddy, thinking her plan was working perfectly. She spent that evening planning her outfit and rehearsing what she'd say to him. The next day, Becca went to meet Devin, all dressed up and armed with fake tears and a sob story about a one-night mistake that had resulted in this surprise blessing. I wished her luck and told her I'd have champagne waiting when she got back. As soon as she left, I packed all my essential belongings and important documents. I'd already secured a small studio apartment across town, paid first and last month's rent, and moved most of my things gradually over the previous 2 weeks while Becca was at work, being careful to take only a few items at a time so she wouldn't notice. 3 hours later, my phone exploded with texts and calls from Becca. I let them go to voicemail, but listened to her increasingly frantic messages. Jake, call me back right now. Something went wrong. Devin had a lawyer with him. Why isn't he answering? Devin just sat there with this smug look while his shark of a lawyer played recordings of me talking about the plan. Recordings, Jake. Where did they get those? I know you did this, you backstabbing piece of shit. You're ruining my life. Call me back or I swear to God I'll... The last voicemail cut off mid-threat, which was probably for the best. I finally answered when Devon's lawyer Marion called. She informed me that they had presented Becca with all the evidence, including the paternity test results confirming I was the father. They had offered her a deal: sign a legally binding document admitting to attempted paternity fraud and agreeing to never contact Devon again, or face a lawsuit for defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and attempted fraud. Becca apparently had gone ballistic in the coffee shop, screaming at Devon, the lawyer, and making a scene that ended with her being asked to leave by management. But ultimately, faced with overwhelming evidence and the threat of legal action, she had signed the document. "What happens now?" I asked Marion. "Now," she said, "you need to protect yourself and your parental rights. I can recommend some excellent family law attorneys who can help you establish custody arrangements." When I mentioned I worked for a family law firm, she laughed. "Well, that's convenient. I'm guessing you already know what you need to do then." I did. While I couldn't file for custody of an unborn child, my firm helped me prepare all the paperwork for a paternity action that would be filed immediately after birth. The next day, I filed this action with the court to legally establish myself as the father and begin the process of determining custody arrangements once the child was born. I also filed for a temporary restraining order after Becca showed up at my workplace, causing a scene and making specific threats, including, "I'll make sure you never see this baby," and "I'll destroy your career if it's the last thing I do." Under Washington's Domestic Violence Protection Act, RCW 2650U, these specific threats, combined with her showing up at my workplace, despite my clear requests to communicate only through email, were sufficient grounds for the court to grant the order. The following months were a nightmare of legal proceedings, mediation sessions, and increasingly desperate attempts by Becca to either win me back or punish me, depending on her mood that day. She alternated between tearful apologies, "I was just scared about money, I never would have gone through with it," and vicious accusations, "You tricked me and colluded with my ex to humiliate me." During proceedings, Becca had shown troubling behavior beyond the workplace incident, missing court-ordered drug tests, sending threatening messages to both me and Devon, and according to her mandatory psychological evaluation, displaying concerning patterns of impulsivity and dishonesty that could impact parenting judgment. Eventually, with my firm's help, we established a co-parenting plan that would go into effect after the child was born, giving me primary physical custody with Becca having supervised visitation until she completed parenting classes and therapy. The judge specifically cited Becca's documented behavior during proceedings when ordering supervision, making it clear this wasn't punitive but protective. Thanks to my firm's connections and the overwhelming evidence, we were able to expedite proceedings that would normally have dragged on for much longer. Still, family court moves slowly, and this whole saga stretched out over many months. Our daughter was born 4 months ago. She's perfect. Tiny fingers, tiny toes, and absolutely no idea about the drama that preceded her arrival. Becca has actually been sticking to the therapy requirement and seems to be making progress. Her supervised visits are going well, and if things continue this way, we'll likely move to unsupervised visitation soon. As for Devon, he sent a surprisingly thoughtful baby gift, along with a note thanking me for having the integrity to do the right thing. We're not friends, exactly, but we've gotten coffee a couple of times, and he's offered some helpful advice about navigating single parenthood. His own troubled history with paternity issues has made him particularly empathetic to my situation. His girlfriend, now fiancée, is expecting their first child in the spring, so we've had plenty to talk about. I know this story doesn't have the explosive, dramatic ending that makes for the best Reddit posts. No one got publicly humiliated or lost everything. Becca didn't go to jail or flee the country. In real life, these things usually end with quiet legal settlements and custody arrangements that prioritize the welfare of the children involved. But I did learn something valuable from all this. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Becca showed me glimpses of her character early on: the fixation on her ex's wealth, the casual dishonesty about small things, the sense of entitlement. I chose to ignore those red flags, and it nearly cost me my relationship with my daughter. So if you're dating someone who seems a little too interested in their ex's money, or who thinks the rules don't apply to them, or who uses phrases like, "we deserve it" when talking about other people's resources, maybe consider that a preview of coming attractions. Edit. Since so many are asking, yes, I spoke with my boss before taking any action, both for legal advice and to make sure I wasn't jeopardizing my job. The firm was completely supportive, and one of our partners handled my case pro bono, though I still paid all the filing fees and court costs. My workplace was understanding about the time I needed to take off for court appearances and meetings with social workers. 2. To clarify the timeline, the baby is now 4 months old. The confrontation with Becca happened when she was about 8 weeks pregnant, so this whole saga has stretched out over about a year. Family court moves painfully slowly, especially during a pandemic. Edit 3. For those criticizing me for snooping through Becca's phone in the first place, yes, it was wrong. I violated her privacy, and I'm not proud of it. That said, I'm glad I did, because otherwise I might never have known about her plan until it was too late. Sometimes you do the wrong thing for what turns out to be the right reasons. Edit 4. Regarding Becca's future relationships, I actually hope she finds someone who makes her happy. Despite everything, she is my daughter's mother, and my daughter will benefit from having a stable, content mother in her life. The supervised visitation isn't meant as punishment, but as a way to ensure everyone's safety while Becca works through her issues. Final update. My daughter just turned 1, and I felt like I owed you all a quick update. Becca has completed her therapy requirements and parenting classes, and we've transitioned to unsupervised visitation. She's dating someone new, a kindergarten teacher who seems to be a stabilizing influence on her. We're not friends, but we're managing to co-parent civilly. My daughter is walking now, saying a few words, and generally being the light of my life. Devin and his wife had a son who is about 6 months younger than my daughter. They've invited us to a few family-friendly events, which has been nice. Life goes on, and sometimes it even gets better.